Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Wismar. And today I really have a whiskey that definitely fits to my channel and to the channel name, namely Baltach, the German whiskey from my hometown of Wismar. The history of Wismar as a beer brewing city is quite long and extensive. At some point in the 15th century they had more than 180 breweries there producing various beers, and one of the most well known back then was the so-called Wismarian Mumme, a very dark stout type beer, sometimes pushed up to 10-12% alcohol for transshipment all around the world, and it even went as far that many of the other Hanseatic cities, Lübeck, Hamburg or Rostock, even put import taxes on the Wismarian beer so that they could sell their own products better. So Wismar, so renowned for their Hanseatic brewmaking tradition and expertise, and one of the people or brewmasters who was most well known back then in the 15th century was Henricus Neute. Henricus Neute is now the company responsible for the Baltach. Here you have it, Henricus Neute, limited liability company, situated in Wismar, and they and the brewery Zum Lohwerk in Wismar they work together, or the same people are responsible also for the brewing of the Wismarian beer today. So the single malt that is produced there in the on-site in the brew house and restaurant Zum Lohwerk is one of the most pristine products that they have there, together with also gin, slow gin. They are also distributing a rum from a Jamaican rum, and various other spirits, that bitters, herbal liqueurs, and but as I said, the single malt whiskey is of course the crown jewel of the portfolio of the Henricus Neute Distilling Company, and the man responsible for it, the brewmaster as well as the distilling master or master distiller, is called Stefan Beck. I know him personally. I'm from Wismar, and I met him a couple of times, and then we usually chat a little bit about whiskey, about distilling, about all the insight that of course he has, that I'm still learning about after all these years. So lots and lots of things to know and to learn, and the way this whiskey is made is a little different from the Scottish single malts or Scottish whiskey. For Henricus Neute, for Baltach, which by the way means, or is Gaelic and means Baltic Sea. So connection is there, Baltach and Baltic Sea. And the distilling equipment is not a standard or typical copper pot still, but a so-called Holstein still, made from Arnold Holstein. So combining sort of this bulbous copper still character as well as continuous column stills, so sort of in one device. Reason for that, why they choose to have that equipment as for the distilling, is quite pragmatic. Namely, you can't actually easily get your hands on a proper Foresight copper pot still nowadays. The wait lists, the wait times for a new still are sometimes years, and they are of course also quite expensive. So this is why they resorted then to the so-called Holstein still. And some people may fear that malt whiskey coming from sort of this column still, column stills may be neutered a little bit when it comes to flavor profile and character, but in the case of Baltach, Stefan Beck is quite careful with that, as he also reintroduces some of the feints back into than the spirit that is then later put into oak barrels. So the very heavy components, fusel oils and stuff that can also make you or give you good headaches, is then also responsible for lots of the character of the whiskies that we love. For instance, from Scotland, Lagavulin, for instance, is renowned for having lots of fusel oils in them. So drinking too much Lagavulin can really give you harsh headaches at times, as they don't separate the alcohols all that well. That huge copper stills that they have there. But here, in the case of Wismar, is actually all deliberate, and now for 10 years they are producing whiskey there in my hometown of Wismar, and this one that I have here now on my table is from 2017, bottled, 13th of November. So age-wise, they don't have an age on it, except with the exception of the bottling date, but they are usually 3.5 years, sometimes a few months more or less, depending on how well the cask is doing. So 3 years of maturation in ex-bourbon wood, and then another half year on average period in wine cask. So sherry cask, in this case a Pedro Jimenez cask. So now I'll try to tell you what this particular vintage is then all about. For the rest of the details on this bottles, it's not chill filtered, even at 43%. No colorant added, so this is all natural color. 3.5 years, quite remarkable. So tells you they have good cask on their hand. And price-wise, $60 euros, pounds, in that price range. But the old issue with German whiskies being usually more on the pricier side, just comes from them not producing as much and having abide by completely different circumstances than, for instance, in United States or Great Britain. But long story short, let's see how this Baltach vintage is doing. So up front, a little bit of alcohol notes there that you have to get past, but also very heavy, dense, dark fruits, dates, figs, and very savory, spicy savory from the oak. So the PX cask was quite active, I reckon. Nutmeg perhaps. All in all, very nutty, and at first nosing also not that sweet, considering this is a PX cask. Rather spicy, dry. Chocolate definitely, but very dark chocolate, so not as sweet as milk chocolate. And a little bit of banana. And banana is usually something that I notice in young whiskies. So that's what I associate always with youthfulness, not so much metallic notes as many others may or may not find in young whiskies. So metallic youth, as it's sometimes called, really can't never get it. Can't detect anything similar to that. If you lick a copper coin or open tin cans of canned fruit or something similar, it's different aromas, different associations for me. So youthness, in this case, I guess my impression, sort of dried banana notes. Malty as well. So this could definitely be a Scottish single malt. And then a little bit of coffee as well. So coffee, chocolate, and caramel. So the bourbon heart shined through as well. 3 years in bourbon wood, active first fill bourbon wood, and then the PX cask. So it's sort of a back and forth between those two. You have the sweeter caramel, banana, sweeter side, and then the darker side of the PX cask as well. Always going back and forth. Dangerously quaffable at 43%. Much more sweet on the palate than on the nose, but very warming as it goes down your throat. Yeah, and yeah, sweet milk chocolate, bordering on after eights, mint chocolate, probably induced by the sherry wood, the PX wood. Rather juicy as well. Juicy and sweet. So, yeah, the full range of what you attribute and associate with sweet PX sherry, cask matured whiskey. So dates, figs, raisins. Absolutely, it's all there, and yeah, quite pleasant. Really quite pleasant. And the nose stays quite interesting. As I said, this back and forth between the dark sherry notes and the bourbon heart of this whiskey works quite well. I don't think it needs water, maybe a few drops at most, but at 43% it has a pretty good drinking strength. So now for the finish. Now this is what you can or could say this is a weakness of young whiskey. The finish is not as profound, but it's not like this is just cherry coating and then immediately everything is gone after a few seconds. No, it stays warm, and you keep the tannins on your tongue. So a little bit of burnt caramel, herbal tea. Burnt caramel, herbal tea, black tea, so bordering on you really taste the tannins, but there are no unpleasant off notes whatsoever. So this whole approach to distilling with the Holstein column still and reintroducing some of the faints, works just beautiful. So as I said, could very well be a malt from Scotland, and this is what what Henrico Snoite with the Baltach tries to achieve, and I think thumbs up for that. Just great whiskey. This is the third vintage I was able to try. The last one was an Oloroso, much more spicier, much more spicy, and then the one before that from 2015 was a PX as well. But I think this PX is even better than the one I had back then, and so very curious what Henrico Snoite will come up with in the future. So eventually they will get older as well. I know from first-hand experience that they are filling up their storage, their warehouse, and of course it takes a while with just one little comparatively small still, but still, eventually they will have also older stock, and who knows what this whiskey then can offer at 10 years of age, or even older. That's it for now. Last thing I have to do is now mark this one. So for German whiskey of this age and with this type of complexity and pleasant mouthfeel and nose, I can only give this very well deserved 86 points out of 100. So well above just good, and well on their way to being quite excellent. And hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, leave a like, subscribe or comment, and then I'll see you next time.